there's no trailer for this movie yet. There's no movie poster. Everything's just kind of quietly ticking away in the background, I think, in run up to Oscar season.
Hello everybody, my name is Phil Marriott, this is Raj Rudolph, we are Boys on Film, we are talking about films that we've seen at the London Film Festival 2022. But Raj, before we talk about The Whale, we've got a little story. You bumped into somebody
who
watches our stuff.
No, I shouldn't have told you now. So I was out at Soho House, I was really drunk, and there was a ton of people chatting to me, and then there was this really nice girl from the other table. She came right up to me, and she bent down, and she's like, "Oh my God, do you mind if I take a picture of you? I'm just such a big fan of your work." And I was like, "Girl, are you taking the piss out of me? What's going on?" And I'm like, "Well, what are you a fan of?" And she's like, she really couldn't answer. Like, I think maybe she was a little drunk too, but she couldn't quite. She recognized my face, I think. So I'm like, this woman thinks I'm somebody else. And I'm like, "What are you a fan of?" Because I'm like, if you're a fan of EQ, okay, yeah. But she couldn't tell me what she was a fan of. And then finally she said, "I'm just a really big fan of your film stuff." And I was like, "I'm not an actor. I'm not a director." Like, what are you talking about? So anyways, I was nice, gave her a few selfies. She went back to her table, she was showing her friends, and they were like laughing or giggling. I was just like, okay, well, that was weird. And then an hour later, my friend is like, he mentioned the movie reviews, and I was like, oh, maybe that's what she meant.
The penny dropped.
She was gone by then, so I couldn't confirm. So, very nice girl at Soho House who was very nice to me. And I was kind of a little bit of a bitch to you. I apologize, but thank you for watching Boys on Film.
She sounds adorable, so hello from me. You didn't get a name or anything, so I can't actually say who you are, but you know who you are.
I hope she leaves her name in the comments, and just know that I was a little drunk and I didn't quite believe you.
He was drunk. That's an excuse. I love it. So let's talk about The Whale. It's a psychological drama. Everybody's talking about it. It got a standing ovation, I think, that went on for 8 minutes at the Venice Film Festival. Directed by Darren Aronofsky from a screenplay written by Samuel D. Hunter, based on his 2012 play of the same name. Now, we saw both of these guys at the Royal Festival Hall, where we saw the screening for the London Film Festival, and they came on stage just before the screening.
Please now put your hands together again for Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah, I was a tiny bit disappointed that Brendan Fraser wasn't there, because he had to rush off to another film festival. The Renaissance is in full effect right now. But yeah, it was really nice to get, Darren Aronofsky is such an icon in the film world. You can only really describe him as one of the most intense filmmakers of, our time. So to get his perspective on this film, and like you mentioned before, Phil, it's a very subdued film to what he usually produces. It's quite interesting. And the writer there, who I believe has weaved a lot of some of his own personal experiences into the story, and seeing his story turn into a play, turn into a film that might eventually win Best Picture at the Oscars, if you ask me. It was really special. I was really happy to be there that night. It was definitely the highlight of London Film Festival for me.
That's interesting. It's one of mine. I don't think I would say it is the highlight, although everybody's buzzing about it. It certainly surprised me. You mentioned Darren Aronofsky's previous style, and he's done a lot of bonkers films that have also been very controversial. I mean, Black Swan, I think that was controversial because Natalie Portman's character, that she had a double, didn't she, that was also dancing in certain scenes. I think a lot of people kicked off about that. And also Requiem for a Dream had quite a brutal sex scene. Mother, which I thought was really interesting. You said you found that a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's way too much going on, and some of the stuff that Darren does with music is really intense, and it kind of to me, it kind of grates on me a little bit. So I never really was much of a fan of Mother. The same thing with the movie Pi. I don't know if you've seen that one, but is very intense, like music. And, sometimes it's a bit OTT for my liking, but I really love Black Swan. So I'm definitely a fan of his work because his work is signature.
Yeah, and I think it gives you a lot to think about. Well, Mother and Noah both have environmental messages in those films, and I think obviously The Whale is definitely something that gives you to think about.
But this is kind of a 360 for him. Like, if you would have told me that Darren Aronofsky directed this, I would have been like, it's not his usual style. It is very subdued, but in a good way. Sadie Sink from Stranger Things, who does an excellent job in this movie. She brought that Darren Aronofsky intensity, because everything that comes out of her mouth is just so intense in kind of a joking way, but she's like a super intense person. So I think that's where his like signature intenseness came from, was from a character rather than relying on music and editing and flashing lights and chaos.
That's a really good point, actually. Let's talk about the story, because it tells the story of a guy who weighs, 600 pounds?
He's a big dude.
He's a big guy. And he tries to reconnect with his daughter, who's 17, who's played by Sadie Sink. Can I just say that Brendan Fraser obviously is getting a lot of acclaim for this, justifiably so, I think. I think it's, fair to say he's terrific in this, but I think Sadie Sink is just incredible in this role. And we've seen her, of course, being brilliant in Stranger Things. I think she really delivers in this film. She proves that she's such a great actor.
Such a young talent. She's gonna go far. Like, I think she might get some acclaim for her role in this. And there's no trailer for this movie yet. There's no movie poster. Everything's just kind of quietly ticking away in the background, I think, in run up to Oscar season. So if you have a chance to see this movie, don't rest on it, because I was just a mess, crying at the end. And for you to evoke emotion out of me is like, it must be pretty strong. So,
and let's not forget, she has an incredibly tough role, as does Brendan Fraser, I think. She as a character was quite bitter and angry about being abandoned at a young age, because it's that reconnection thing, because he's not seen her for years, because he found love with a man, and obviously splits up with his ex-wife, and his ex-wife is played by Samantha Morton, who again is amazing. And I said to you afterwards, I said, because sometimes when British actors put on another accent, and in this case obviously an American accent, I think it jars with me sometimes. I thought her accent was brilliant, but obviously I'm not American, so I can't vouch for that, but you can.
No, I didn't even know it was Samantha Morton. Such a transformation, and I didn't notice any weirdness about her voice acting. So yeah, everyone in this movie is so brilliant, right down to the pizza delivery guy.
Yeah, and Hong Chau as well, who plays Liz, who's Charlie's friend, and he's nurse, because he's her best friend, and she gets angry because he doesn't seem to be doing anything about the condition that he's in, because he's sat there and he works from home because he's tutor,
online tutor,
online tutor.
Yeah.
So he doesn't move. He's just in his house all the time.
And this whole story is like told over a week. He has the money to go to the hospital. He doesn't want to. He just wants to reconnect with his daughter and do everything he can to do that, and give her a ton of money that he saved up, because he doesn't do anything, barely leaves a sofa. So he's going to do the best that he can and mend a lot of relationships. A lot happens in that little apartment.
Yeah, that's true, because it doesn't really go anywhere else. I mean, the whole story is centered in that building. So some might say, oh my God, that's going to be quite a boring film, but actually it's far from it. I mean, I was engaged. I mean, I loved, all the different characters and how they played a part in his life, and vice versa. And also the anger and the bitterness and the upset that his condition has caused other people.
There are some real moments in this film. I'm getting a little bit emotional thinking about it, actually, right now.
Well, he's dealing with a lot. He's self-medicating with food. So I think it taps into that, because a lot of people would just write him off as being selfish. But actually, he's dealing with a lot of upset and grief as well.
And talking about going back to the intensity, like, there's no holds barred when he is binging on food. Like, you see it in all of its ugliness, and that is just like, oh my god, like, that felt really intense. Like, what that, it's like taking drugs, to get a high or to feel something that you're, hiding your emotions from. So, there's a lot of layers in this film. A lot of layers.
When people think of addiction, they do think of drugs and drink. They rarely think of food. So I think it's interesting that was explored, and I think people will think differently after seeing this film. Yeah, I thought it was incredible. Not my favourite film of the festival, because that's to come in a future review, which I don't think you saw.
If anyone who's ever had any weight problems can attest to, I mean, what this guy is going through is way more than, I need to lose 10 pounds type of thing. You know what I mean? So, like, there's a lot going on there, and it really hit home, and I was really moved. For me, it was, it deserves all the 5-minute standing ovations that it's getting for every time it's aired. This film deserves all the awards. I'm excited to see it potentially go into wider release, even just a trailer, because it just feels like, a bunch of critics talking about the film, and there's a little bit of buzz, but I'm just really excited for the general public to be able to watch this film, because it's super moving. Give Darren Aronofsky a nomination this year, please. Give Brendan Fraser the Best Actor award, please. Give some, acclaim to Sadie Sink. Like, every actor and person involved in this film deserves something, because it is a marvel to watch. A marvel. And you can quote me on that.
So, Star Racing, I've got a funny feeling it's going to be pretty flawless for you.
It's a 1. No.
What?
It is a very, very strong 5. Definitely one of the best films I've seen this year.
Excellent.
Definitely.
Well, mine's high. Mine's a 4. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a really powerful piece of cinema as well.
And there you have it. The Whale.
I didn't cry, though, weirdly. What's that about?
Because you're weird and you cry at things like Halloween Ends. You're getting emotional thinking about it.
Maybe you were at London Film Festival 2022. What did you think of it in all? And because we've, of course, finished it, we've still got stuff to watch on the digital player, so we've still not covered everything. But I think it's been brilliant this year. I mean, I think I've watched about 25 films in total. 22 films.
Yeah, I still have 6 more to watch, but I think my total will be 22 after I watch them, which is a low year for me. Last year, I think I did 35.
You're such a powerhouse.
Hats off to Trisha Tuttle. Woman, take a bow. Take a bow. You are going out in style. The film festival was the best it's ever been in, the 5 years that we've been going, Phil. And it was the best organized.
Yeah, it was really smooth.
You set the standard for what's to come next year.
So looking forward to BFI Flair coming up in a few months' time, and also, of course, LFF next year. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked what we did on the video today. Check out The Whale if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, let us know what you thought in the comments. And check out our LFF playlist. Loads of other reviews for you and plenty more to come. Bye for now.